I've got a pressure control switch here for an air compressor. And when you take these apart, they're under spring tension and the parts just kind of fall all over the place. So I'm going to show you how to put it back together. Now with mine, I found that I had a leak underneath here. The switch sits on top of this, and I took a small hose and put it up to my ear and then poked around here, and I found that the leak was coming from right back here. So I needed to take this apart to check that out, and it has to be this gasket here, but this gasket seems like it's in fine shape. It's just a rubber gasket. It's soft, pliable, there's no tears in it or anything. So it could be that the screws just weren't tight. I'll find out when I put it back together. But I got this apart, and I just wanted to show you how it goes back together if this happened to you. You've got this spring here, and it's adjusted by a screw on the other side here, this screw here. And the way that works is there's your spring, and here's the screw. Yours might be a little different, but that's the way this one is. And they come from the factory preset. This one kicks off at 115 psi. It's got little wings on each side, and it fits right in those slots there. You can see that sitting on the top there, and it drops in. You're also going to have this plate that goes in here, and there's only two ways it can go in, and one way's right and one's not. So you can see there's that open bracket there, and that sits in there just like that. And that opens and then closes the points here. And this sticks out up here. It's the other end of it. If you put it in the other way, it'll go in, but it won't go in all the way. And it's not going to operate those points. So make sure you get that in properly. Goes in this way. Just like that. And it fits right in that slot there. And you can see that pushing on those points now. When the pressure in your tank gets high enough, you've got contact there, so it's running. When it gets high enough, it pushes down on that and opens those points so your compressor shuts off. You can see when I turn this over, this fell out and the screw fell out. I'll put that back in. There we go. Now you can see that spring sitting way up. There's a lot of tension there. Now I noticed on this, you can see there's a lot of wear out here. So all these springs fell off and everything when I took it out. Originally I thought this must go out here. Just like that, because of the way it was worn here. But that's not the way that goes. This goes on here like this. If you put it on the other way and you tension that spring, you're going to bend that. It's too much. So you got to put that on in that loop just like that. And this is the top side here. You flip it over, you can see that that's sticking up a little bit. That's the one that goes down and presses against this to open and close those points. So that goes this way. And you can see these two wings here. They fit right in this pocket here. Just like that. And that spring is going to sit up like this. And you can see there's a little nick on this arm here. That spring goes right in there, just like that. And this hole here, you can see it's got a knockout up there. That sits in the middle of that spring there. And these two wings here sit right in the back of this. Fits in there perfect. And what you can do is tip this down this way. We'll set that in. Just like that. Of course, you got to keep all these springs together and everything. And what I'm going to do, I've got the back in here. I'm going to pull this down. That's spring loaded. And you got to keep the back in. See how that popped out? Keep the back end in. Pull this down. And that's how that sits, just like that. Now that's under a lot of tension. So to make it easier, I'm going to back this tension on this spring. Otherwise it just wants to shoot out like that. So to do that, I'm going to hold this in place. I'm going to take my little screwdriver and I'm going to count how many turns, because this is set at the factory, I'm going to count how many turns I back it off. So there's a half, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5, 5. Okay, there's 5 turns. And you can see we're just about down at the bottom, so that'll take a lot of tension off. 5 turns. I gotta put this back in. There we go. I can drop the spring in, and that sits down lower now, which will help. Put this back together, just hook that in there, tip this down, set this in place, get that back in. All right, I got that in. Now I've got to hold the back in, tip this down. Well, almost had it. That back wants to pop out. Got the back in, tip that down, and we're all locked and loaded here. That's exactly how that sits. Now, the challenge is I've got to get this onto this plate. It actually sits this way. That tongue goes underneath there. So I need to hold this all together here. Grab the vice grips. I got to back this off. You can see this is nubbed out here. I'm going to put the vice grips on there to hold this in place. Now that's too tight. This is plastic, so I don't want to break that, so I need to back that off more. All right. I got that all in place. And this is what opens and closes the points here. So we're all set there. Now, I got another challenge here. This sits in here like this. I got to put that underneath there. And this goes here, and this goes here. So I got to line all these up. So what I think I'm going to do, obviously this vice grip will be in the way doing that. So I've got a zip tie here. See if I can tie that down and hold that in place with this. that as tight as I can. See if that'll hold that in place. Yep. All right. That'll help a lot. I'll put this in place. Set this in. That tongue's got to go underneath there and up through here. That's what controls that. Hopefully I have enough room to get the screws started. Set this in place. Take one of my screws, and these are, take a Torx bit. See that sticking through there? I'll get it lined up here. I also, because I had a leak, I cleaned this mating surface here. So hopefully it'll take care of that. All right, I got that started. Okay, I think I got that one in too. Now the back ones. Yeah, I can feel it coming through. Good. Okay, good. I gotta get this down enough so that it doesn't spring out, but not too much where I can't get this zip tie out. I think I'm in pretty good shape here. Maybe take this one down just a little more. I can go ahead and cut the zip tie here and hopefully slip it out. Oh yeah. Uh-oh. Get that down nice and snug because that's where my leak was. All right. Now we need to go back to this screw, and I said 5 turns. So there's a half, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5, 5. That should be the factory setting right there. Couple real quick tips. First of all, make sure you get this lined up the right way. You can put the base any way you want, and it depends on your orientation for your hookups. So be real careful with that. The other thing you need to be real careful of is when you put your zip tie on there, make sure you've got a nice firm grip on it, and that's going to want to pop back out. So when you pull the zip tie out, tighten those screws down snug and get it so you can barely pull the zip ties out. But before you pull them out, I stuck a screwdriver in here, and you can take up that gap with a little screwdriver, pull your zip ties out, then tighten those down so they're snug, and then just work your screwdriver out just a little bit, tighten them down again, work your screwdriver out just a little bit, tighten them down again, and then you can snug it all the way down. But if you see a gap in here, that metal plate shouldn't be showing at all. That should be countersunk in this plastic. Right on here it says line, and up here it says motor. So here's our power line, that goes in here, and the red one goes to this side. Good. And black's over here. And when you take these apart, just pay attention to what wire goes where. And you can see I took a picture of how this is set up, so I knew what went where. I recommend you do the same. And the green goes to ground. That's that screw there on the plate. Let's take it over to the compressor and hook it up. You always go the direction when you're putting the tape on, go the direction that you'll be tightening. So I'm tightening clockwise, put the tape on clockwise. Otherwise, you put the tape on counterclockwise, and it's going to unravel as you're tightening the whatever you're tightening down. I typically go around 4 times. And we'll hook up the wires for the motor. Put the cover back on. There we go. Screw this down. Good. And I'll put the pressure regulator back on. This is just an add-on that I had. Good. Just plug the holes in so we can test it out. Off we go! It's supposed to shut off at 115 psi. Now we're at 112. But the key is it leaking? And she's quiet as a mouse. I like to keep my pressure around 90 psi. I'm just about there. That's good. We'll see where it kicks on. Factory set on this one is at 85. Should kick on right about there. Good to go. If this video was a help to you, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing. And I look forward to helping you with other projects online.